letting in the speakers now.
Okay. Then I'll let you do that. I'm starting the live stream.
Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we have 7 of us. Okay, at 6:04, I'm going to start this stated session of City Council. Call to order. Please remain seated for the invocation, followed by the pledge of the flag. As we prepare to make decisions that affect the 28,000 individuals that live in our city, please guide us to make the right decisions. Also, we see light at the end of the tunnel of this COVID pandemic. Let that light shine on us all and encourage us all to get vaccinated to end this pandemic so that we can return to life as we knew it more than a year ago. With other mayors, I've declared this month of April as the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month and ask that all Estonians embrace and accept all of our residents from diverse backgrounds. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
United
and to
States
the
of
republic
America,
which stands
to the republic for which it stands, one
under
nation,
God, indivisible,
indivisible,
justice
with
for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Brown,
Here.
Mr. Ettinger.
Here.
Mr. Milan,
Here.
Mr. O'Connell,
Here,
Dr. Ruggles,
Here.
Mrs. Volcano,
Here.
Mayor Panto.
Here. At this time, we'll have approval of the agenda. I'd like to amend the agenda to include the resolution that you received to purchase 2 used fire trucks as letter number F under new business. I'll move that motion.
second,
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call. On the
Mr.
amendment.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
aye,
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye. Now we'll have approval of the agenda as
Mr.
amended.
Brown.
Aye.
Thank you.
I'll have approval of the agenda as amended. Need a motion.
So move.
So moved by Brown,
second,
seconded by O'Connell.
second,
Roll call, please.
Okay. Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Panto, I'm sorry, Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
aye,
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
and Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing on our, I'm sorry,
Action.
action on the minutes of the March 24th meeting.
Moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to those minutes? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
aye,
Dr. Ruggles,
aye,
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
Okay, at this time, we're going to have a public hearing on the economic development liquor license transfer for the mini mart at 13th and North Hampton Street. I'll turn this meeting over to Madam Volcano.
Thank you, Mayor Panto. At this time, in accordance with the city ordinance number 5717, I am opening the public hearing for the purposes of receiving comments and recommendations of interested individuals residing within the city of Easton, Pennsylvania, concerning transfer of a Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board liquor license from the city of Bethlehem into the city of Easton on behalf of the following applicants. The beneficiary business is Supreme Mart. It's a convenience store. It's located at 2 South 13th Street in Easton. The owner of the property and of the business is Sun Supreme LLC. And they're at 5717 Sullivan Trail in Nazareth, PA. The adjacent property owners, key community stakeholders, the city police department, and the departments of codes and planning and community economic development have all reviewed the subject application and have provided no objections to the transfer. And I want to just ask before we begin, is Mr. Craig Neely, Attorney Craig Neely, on the call?
Yes, he is.
I don't know if he would like to add anything at this time before we open it up for council comment and public comment, but he is most welcome.
All right, I'm just unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Craig.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Volcano, no, I would rather defer to the city council at this point, but reserve the right. Mr. Patel, who's a part owner and he signed the application, I believe that he has probably logged on also.
Yes.
Okay.
And if we could bring him on, so because he would be able to answer some questions for the council in the event you have some questions.
Okay, Tracy, please bring Mr. Patel on. There he is. He's on. He's unmuted as well. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, then at this time, I'll ask if there's any questions from council first on this transfer.
There's no questions, but if the council would want to hear a little bit of background about the business, we're prepared to offer that. In addition to offering information about the proposal on what's to be done. But maybe the best thing, if council would be okay with it, is we can open it up for questions, because that may already answer some of the things that I would be asking about. And therefore, it might just go a little more efficiently if we do it that way.
So you're saying you want to present or explain it first and then open it up for questions?
I just asked if any council members would have some questions, if they would want to ask those of Mr. Patel.
Okay.
And then if there's anything that I can clarify at the end, I can ask those questions to do that.
Okay, fine. So we'll go with, are there any questions from the city council on this transfer?
I have a question. Mr. Patel, in the operation of this license, will you be selling just beer, or will it be, I noticed a inundation of all these places where they're selling these little Fireball bottles, and that's really a liquor, not a beer. What does your license allow you to sell?
Good evening, council. I believe that the license is an E-license by the state of Pennsylvania, and that will restrict it to malt beverages only. And I have not seen the small, fire bottles that you described, but if they are liquor, then that would be outside of the purview of our license, I believe so.
Thank you very much. And what are your hours of operation?
We are open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I have no other questions, Madam Volcano.
I'm sorry, did you say 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.?
Yes, that's correct.
Because I was given some information from the economic development. And I don't know if you're just allowed to be there from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m.
I can answer.
Sunday hours are different, but, and
I
then
can
you
answer that.
choose to be whatever hours you want within that time span.
Yes, Ms. Volcano, the E-license under Pennsylvania liquor law is allowed to be open until 2 a.m.
Okay,
But the current hours of Sun Supreme are until 8 o'clock, and
okay,
they are going to limit their hours to that 8 p.m. time.
okay, that's wonderful, in my opinion. Anyway,
I would like to make a motion, Madam Volcano, that we approve this license transfer with the condition that if the individual will just stay open later than 8 o'clock, that he comes back for additional approval from the city council.
I will second that. Do we need a formal resolution for that? I would think.
How can we restrict a business from operating?
Mr. Councilman Milan, you did it all the time on the zoning board. They've always asked what their hours are, and they restrict them to certain hours.
I don't think so. I mean, you're gonna restrict a licensed operation from selling liquor after 10 o'clock? But they chose that time. That's all we're saying, really. They
Well-
chose the time. That's all we know.
But I don't think you can restrict a business though.
If I may comment, the Liquor Control Board ultimately has the final say.
Right.
What they request is that City Council make a recommendation, or basically give its opinion as to whether or not it should be granted. So I don't think there's a problem with a notation within the resolution saying that city council would recommend approval of the application subject to hours being as represented by the hours of operations being as represented by the applicant, subject to going back to city council. I do not know that the Liquor Control Board, frankly, would adopt any such restrictions. And its standards may well be that, once you're granted a license, you're granted it for the full expanse of that time limit. And it could just weigh what city council said accordingly. It may have no effect at all upon the application. So I don't think you are prevented from putting that language into a resolution. I can't tell you that ultimately you can control that because the LCB has the final say in that
And
regard.
I understand.
Well, Joe, and I agree with that.
I
I agree with that. The only thing I'm trying to think of is that it's just being a good neighbor. It's just being a good neighbor. That's all we're saying.
Well, I'm going a little further than that. If this needed a zoning requirement, that would be one of the things they could do. They could put restrictions on it. I mean, it was very evident when Turkey Hill wanted to go into the synagogue facility. The neighbors were very much against it because they were going to have a liquor license. Now, I can approve a liquor license at 8 o'clock, but I can't approve. I might think twice about it if it was open till midnight or 2 a.m. All I'm asking is the applicant to come back. I think Mr. Milano is probably correct. We probably don't have any control over it because we don't have much control over liquor at all. But he has to come here to ask us for a transfer from the city of Bethlehem to the city of Easton. And Mr. Patel has said that he was only going to be able to 8 o'clock. So all I'm asking for is him to come back if he decides to change his hours. I think we need to know that, not find out after there's an incident where our police are responding to problems in the neighborhood. I think the neighbors deserve the opportunity to at least know what the hours are, because it doesn't have to go to zoning. They're a ongoing business. And I think that changes the use. You're now selling alcohol. You're not just selling groceries and milk and eggs and bread. I think we can place that on. But I think Peter's right that, ultimately the final decision is the Department of Liquor Control.
Can I just add that according to my specs, the hours that are in that type of license are Monday to Saturday, 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. and Sunday hours require an SS permit. So you wouldn't be allowed to be open on Sundays.
Yeah, that's correct.
Can I add one thing to that?
Sure, Craig, Mr. Neely.
And that is that Mr. Patel is representing, and he is set on closing at 8 o'clock. And he has no objection to that being in a resolution signed by city council, and also represents that, as the mayor points out, we are going to have to go before zoning for a special exception, and we will be agreeing to that, offering to agree to that condition in front of the zoning board also.
Well,
So do we want to put this in as a addition to the
I'm making a
resolution?
motion to do that. I mean,
Okay.
there's a motion on the floor to do that. I don't know if it hasn't been seconded yet.
No. Oh,
I think this is bad precedent, honestly, to be honest. I mean, let the zoning hearing board put the restriction on. I don't think we have the authority to do this. I mean, I respect your opinions, and I wholeheartedly agree with you guys, but I think this is a bad precedent. I mean, the Liquor Control Board controls this stuff. The police are responsible enough to go in.
Right, but the Liquor Control Board does not say that we can deny it. I mean, we can deny the transfer from Bethlehem to Easton.
You're well within your rights to deny the transfer, but
Mr. Patel runs a good operation there, and I'm trusting him that he's going to continue to run a good operation. I have no problem putting my faith in Mr. Patel to do that, but he's offering 8 o'clock. I'm not against him extending his hours. He comes to me and says, "Hey, listen, I can't make it from 6 in the morning to 8 at night. I like to stay up until 10 or 11." I'm not going to deny that, but I think we should know that he's changing his hours. That's all.
I mean, and that's fine, but I think this is just a bad precedent, honestly, but that's fine.
I have a question. I see also by the specs that you would need to have seating for 30 people, must be available at all times. Is there room in there for seating for 30 people?
Roger, you want to answer that?
Says
Yeah,
food
sure.
and seating for at least 30 people must be available at all times.
Yes, I can definitely answer that question. So as we stand currently, the building itself is something like 35 or 3,800 square feet. There is a lot of shelving in there, and we have developed already 2 plans. We have a plan A and a plan B for making sure we hit that 30-person requirement. So
Okay.
we've rearranged things inside already, and our plan is, and we are hoping to work with both the city and PALCB to get some outdoor seating, so we don't have to rearrange things too much. And we've also put in an island, a bar island inside the store already. And that should, between that and some tables that we're adding, get us to already about 20. And we're hoping, we get about 10 people outside. If that doesn't work and the LCB comes back and says, this isn't permissible with our requirements, we have a plan B where we can remove some shelving and put some tables in there. Like I said, it's a 3,500 square foot. It seems like plenty of space. We just have to move things around, and it makes life easier if we could put seating outside instead of moving inside.
Okay, thank you.
I note that you have a proposed resolution later near the very end of the agenda, resolution number 2021. So this is technically just the hearing aspect. Unless you change the agenda to move this up, it would be appropriate to take that resolution, do any amendments at that time, and vote at that time. You also still have to have the public have an opportunity to comment on this too.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Are there any other questions of council at this time? Seeing none, then I will open it up to the public. Is there anyone raising their hand to question at this open hearing about this transfer of this license? Anybody see any hands raised from the public?
No hands are raised.
No hands are raised?
Correct.
Mr.
That was the
Neal,
opportunity for the public to raise their hand because we will be voting on this resolution prior to the next time that the public comment on non-agenda items comes up at the end of the meeting. But I still don't see any hands, so
okay, well, there is a resolution tonight.
yes.
Okay, Mr. Neely or Mr. Patel, would you like to add anything else at this time?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay, then I will close this public hearing. Thank you very
Thank you.
much for attending.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Mr. Neely and Mr. Patel.
Thank you.
We'll vote on this at the end, towards the end of the meeting. At this time, I would also like to open up the floor to the public for public comment on agenda items only. At the end of the meeting, you'll have an opportunity to speak on any item that's not on the agenda. Right now, the public has an opportunity to speak on any agenda items that they'd like to address. Please use the button at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand. I don't see any hands being raised. So we'll go on to consent agenda, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Under the consent agenda, we have a resolution that would approve the destruction of old police records. We have a resolution that would approve an agreement with TR Property Management. We have a resolution authorizing a submission of a grant application for an archaeological survey at the Nesquehoning Street Park. And we have bill number 6 that was introduced by Mayor Panto, where we were creating 2 15-minute parking pickup spaces and creating a loading and drop-off zone on the north side of the 300 block of Northampton Street. And we have an ordinance that was introduced by Mr. Ettinger, where we would be changing the 300 block of Church Street between North 3rd Street and Bank Street to become one-way heading west. That's the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
I move the consent agenda.
Ruggles moves the consent agenda.
second,
seconded by Volcano. Questions, Dr. Ruggles?
Yes, in reading the maintenance agreement, it's not a big deal, but with TR Property Management, if we take a look at Article 7, they talk about boundaries, and I don't think those are correct. I mean, what they say the different neighborhoods actually bound on. If you take a look at the first one on College Hill, it says that we bound on, or it bounds on Palmer. Maybe a very small point where that apartment complex is, it bounds on Palmer, but the major portion is on Forks. So, and Forks isn't in there. And then also on South Side, it says West Easton. And South Side, by the definition that's here, doesn't border on West Easton. So they're a little messed up. I don't know that that's a big deal, but I mean, I'm not even sure why they're in there, but.
Yeah, it's obviously, I mean, you're absolutely right. There's some grave mistakes. College Hill doesn't go north of the Bush, from Forks Township to the north.
Yeah.
Oh, in the south. Okay, well, the south side from Lehigh to north of the municipal lines of West Glendon and West Easton, and they're forgetting about the Delaware River. That separates us from the West Easton. We'll have those minor changes corrected. Mr. Shear, what is your thoughts about the opportunity to approve this tonight, or should we have these changes made first?
I think when you look at the changes, it's so clear that it's almost like a typo with whole phrases. I think we all know that what it's intended to do. In fact, am I incorrect in concluding that it's within the boundaries of the city of Easton, period?
Yes.
It's all that's needed in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my suggestion is that this be approved, amending Article 7 to indicate within the boundaries of the city of Easton, and delete the remainder of this.
Okay.
We could submit an addendum to this at the next council meeting if we execute this document, because this is an incumbent contractor that has worked with the department now for more than a couple of years. So right now somehow that portion was missed, but certainly we could clarify that in an addendum. They are only working in the city.
Yeah, I just think it's silly to even bother with those descriptions.
Yeah,
We're hiring them to do general contracting work within the city of Easton.
Joel, can the
You
verbiage?
don't even have to say within the boundaries, because in case you have them go out to Upper Hackett Park.
That is the city of Easton.
Right.
It is the city of Easton. That's why I say within the city of Easton makes more sense, because the boundaries get too goofy once you're beyond the normal boundaries. What was, did I hear something from Rita?
Yeah, so if the verbiage is to add just within the city of Easton, is that something then we can just approve, then the contract can initial that change?
Yeah, well, that would be my suggestion, that this be approved with the amendment of Article 7 to read after, under the scope of this contract within the city of Easton.
Yeah, you could just.
Period, and delete.
You could just do that in the Article 7, just remove as follows in that second line and say within the boundaries of the city of Easton, right there. And then
Yeah,
remove all the bullet
actually,
points.
I'd even, within, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You delete the bullet points. The contractor shall be assigned work under the scope of the contract within the city of Easton, period.
Okay.
We have a motion on the amendment to this contract.
Move.
Should we do that when we, wait, hang on 1 second. Sorry.
We're under the consent agenda now. We got to pull it out.
You're right. I'm apologizing. My error.
No problem. We're all
Okay,
making,
so a motion to amend it is by whom?
Kenny,
Kenny Brown,
I need a
I'll
second.
second it.
Ruggles will second it. Any other questions on this amendment? Roll call on the amendment.
Okay. Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Jeremy?
Doc-
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
Now we'll have a motion on the amended contract.
Move
On the
to
consent.
approve.
Moved by O'Connell, second by Ruggles.
Well, then my question is, are we going to, we already agreed to amend it, so now are we making the motion to?
We'll make the motion to pass the contract as amended.
But it's out, we're on the consent agenda.
I know, but we,
Was in the,
we didn't take it up, we didn't set it aside when we approved the
oh, we
consent
did,
agenda.
okay.
So we have to, we got to approve it yet. We didn't approve it as amended. Is that correct,
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Motions for the amended, to approve the amended one.
It was O'Connell and Ruggles. Any comments or questions or concerns on the amended contract? Roll call.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
And now I need a vote on the consent agenda as a whole.
Move.
Dr.
Second.
Ruggles already moved it and Sandy seconded it.
So now you need to
Okay.
vote.
Just to vote for it. For Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto.
Aye. Okay, at this time, we have no reports received by council, so we'll go to reports of the committees. Finance Committee, Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to report, but I do have Mrs. Sinecki here this evening to talk about the account receivables and some of the questions that were asked at the prior council meeting. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Sinecki.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, and good evening, council. Yesterday, I sent out an email with a couple of documents that provided an overview of our accounts receivable, the balances, and our plans to collect those. I'm happy to go through the presentation if you'd like, or take any questions at this time. Dr. Ruggles, I believe you're muted, though.
I'm sorry, I don't have it right in front of me, but you were talking about the differences in, I believe it was the sewer, and you said it was due to some billing or something like that, that it was a major number difference in the two values that were presented. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can get it real quick.
Well, Dr. Ruggles, I think you're referring to basically the first couple of months when we switched over to Diversified. There were some basically misreads where information that was passed along from Easton Suburban to Diversified was maybe not correct. And so that provided bad reads, which then turned into bad bills, which were overstated. So those were corrected in subsequent months. So you did see kind of some high numbers in the first 2 months that we were with Diversified that dropped back down in January, and then it has stabilized since.
Okay, so, but in your, my question is, in your text, you,
Is this under slide 3, and would it help to share this?
Yes, I think that would be
Okay,
terrific.
all right. Tracy or Lewis, if I could ask you to,
You should have it already.
should,
Yeah.
okay.
The numbers just really didn't make a lot of sense to me in the fact that we had, and maybe this is what you were talking about, but in November 20, for the sewer, we had 628,000 roughly. December, we had 642,000. And then January, we're at 57,000.
Yep.
And then in February, 430, and March, 421. So it appears to me, if I'm going by February, March, that we should basically expect about 430,000 a month. I mean, is that our normal?
Correct.
Then
Correct. So,
when we get 628, why doesn't somebody say, hey, something's wrong here?
yeah, well, that was some of the hurdles we faced with our conversion over to diversified. They didn't have in the first month where we converted. They didn't really have a history to be able to say that this looks a little wacky. We shouldn't bill this without checking. Unfortunately, that did carry over into December, and so now they had a couple of months of history to say, okay, these are wrong, and we were able to, obviously getting phone calls from customers who are not, who were overbilled. We found these issues and did resolve them in January. So that's where the run rate is, closer to that $430,000 a month for sewer.
So the other thing, can you just, at the bottom of that table, it has total billing and total payments.
Yes.
And I understand that the total billing is the sum of all of the values that are found in the billing table above.
Yep.
And that the total payments is the sum of all of those. What is that telling me? Because you have 5 months of billing and 4 months of payments. I would expect it to have a difference.
Right. It's just basically saying that, yes, we're carrying over, basically about a month's worth of billing each month. And, that our collections for these current, more current bills are pretty solid. So that's what we're trying to reflect in this slide here, or at the bottom of that slide.
Okay. But again, this is each of the categories. And again, if I'm taking a look at February and March, we're around 900,000 a month. And so if we're minus a month here, I would expect that difference to be at least $900,000.
I guess what I can say is that there are catch up, payments that are being made. So it's not necessarily one-to-one. There are older balances that did come over with diversified. So we're just showing here what actually diversified billed and what they have collected. But again, there are outstanding balances that were prior to this cutover. And so we may be getting, higher numbers because of people paying off those balances. So yeah, Dr. Ruggles, you're right. It's tough to kind of put that, complete view in here, but we were trying again to show the impacts of, or the history since we moved over to diversified.
And just the number in the total for payments, why is it that we have 585,000 in December and then $1.1 million in January?
I really can't say that outside of, people maybe weren't, familiar with the new system, weren't making the payments and then caught up in January.
Does that impact our receivable budgets at all? I mean, is that money that would have normally been in December, being paid in January? Does that come into our revenue stream in 2021 then?
No, the cash comes in obviously, and that's what's reflected here. The receivables or the billing that is done for 2020. So the December billing would be what's on record for the year end number. So anything that carries over that wouldn't necessarily move into 2021. It would stay in 2020. So we keep that billing revenue number in for the end of the year.
My last question, I promise. The slide on recent collections.
Yes.
It basically told me nothing. I mean, I would have expected at least if you're making these calls, you're going to let me know how successful this was, and I have no idea. All I know is you made calls, and I mean, what was our success rate? I mean, was this something that was worth it? Was this something that after 60 days we send them reporting off? It really didn't tell me anything other than you made calls.
Okay. To answer your question, Dr. Robles, the $190,000 worth of delinquent accounts that we were targeting were a combination of some of our bigger, billers, and also some of the bigger billers and bigger balances. So it was a combination of those older accounts that I kind of said maybe aged out. Those that are older than 120 days or more, and then also some of the more recent accounts where balances had just spiked. I think probably with the conversion to diversified. Unfortunately, in some instances, customers weren't aware of the change. They didn't update their auto draft, with money coming out of their accounts from their bank on a regular basis. So basically, they would just automatically pay those bills. So it was a combination of those. We were much more successful. It wasn't a huge amount of money that we've brought in. We're still working on it, but we're more successful with the more current accounts, as you would expect. The older ones, we're just not getting a lot of traction there, and those are, I think, the easier ones to say, okay, let's just send them off to Portnoy. Again, we know that Portnoy is good at making those collections. It just may take them a while to get through the whole process to get that money. But rather than us continuing to make those calls on some of these older accounts, we should probably move those over.
If I can chime in, Roger, one thing that sticks in our mind, you had recommended that we go from 90-day turnover to Portnoy to 60 days. So we don't have, we've been thinking about that because we're not necessarily built to be in the, we are in the collections business, but not necessarily collections delinquency business per se. But what we are in the business in is giving our residents a courtesy call when they're delinquent for whatever reason on their accounts, because the last thing we want to do is see that account, especially to someone who makes their payments, and go to collections in which there's additional fees that Portnoy places on those individuals. So what we expect that in the next probably 2 weeks, by the next council meeting, have some better information that we can show you, and certainly in 60 days, to show you if this makes sense, if our collection rate is not as not as robust that we can justify, keeping or turning over these accounts in 90 days, and maybe it is a 60-day turnaround time. So we're we do have some information, but it's too early to provide you what the collections rate is on our phone calls. The other thing is that, as you saw in the presentation, we switched to this system right now, and there's automatic ticklers. Like there's emails that are sent before your due date to remind customers that you have a pending bill. And then if you're late, you have emails that are sent to you saying that you're late on your bill. And then there's text messaging technology that's going to be coming in hopefully this year as well to send out to our residents.
Well, I think my point is if we understand what the success was on the phone calls, and I don't understand, I mean, if you're making phone calls, you make 2 phone calls, you mark down one was successful, one was not, we're 50%, okay? I mean, it's basically that simple. But, you know, if we know that, let's say that we're only 25% successful on our phone calls, then we can make a decision as to whether or not, well, should we go to 60 days? I mean, if we end up being 80% or 90% successful on our phone calls, might not need to do that. But
I agree with you, but it's not a one-time phone call. It's calling probably that delinquent pair on a weekly basis. And that's why right now we are hovering around maybe 10% without, you know, putting it on paper. Maybe in a couple more weeks, that 10% number will get to 25%. Maybe it'll increase, but certainly I think after 30 days or 60 days, we'll have a better idea of what the potential rate is. But it's not a one-time call. It's not a once a month call.
okay,
It's an every week call.
okay.
Right, and there are reminders where, you know, if we speak to someone or, you know, speak to a payer, they say, oh yeah, I forgot, or like I said, you know, I had this set up on auto pay, I'll get that resolved. Well, you know, we take a look at the account a week later, nothing's been done, so it's another call to remind them, oh yeah, and then, you know, very often they will, you know, make some sort of, you know, make a payment or what have you. But in other cases, it seems like, you know, we're hearing a bit of a song and dance, and are not making much progress. So yeah, it's a tedious process, but you know, to Lewis's point, I think we'll have a better answer by the next council meeting to say how this first go around went.
Well, let me just say that, you know, the history is history, but I think one of the things that's happening here is, and it's very, very difficult, I understand this, is you're changing a culture. Because we historically, we've had a culture where we haven't been doing these collections. And now we're moving into a culture where we say, okay, this is very important that we get this money. And you have to change that perspective in people's minds. And I think, you know, Sal's pointed out in the past, you know, the water company doesn't have this issue because their culture is, you know, if I don't pay my bill, my water gets shut off, you know, and people realize that. And I think that's the thing that you're going against here, Mark. And I was just trying to get some understanding of how successful you were. Okay. And so, you know, and I know it's a tough job. I mean, changing cultures, it's a tough job. But anyway, that's why I wanted to know.
Okay, well, thank you. I do appreciate that, Dr. Ruggles. And you know, to your point about, you know, the water shutoffs, as you know, we do work with East and Suburban for shutoffs. You know, they will, you know, we partner with them. But you know, over the last year plus, they've held off on any shutoff. So, you know, we don't really have much of like, I would say, an incentive for customers to pay outside of, you know, the water shutoffs or turning accounts over to Portnoy, where things, you know, they go the legal route. And so, yeah, we're trying to change, as you say, change the culture and let people know that we are, you know, making attempts here to collect these payments, and we don't want to send them to collections, and we don't want to turn off water. That's not what we want to do, but we need to make them aware that, you know, there are these monies outstanding, they are owed to the city, and everybody needs to pay their fair share.
Any other questions? Finance? Mr. Lisinecki?
Anybody else? Is that it, Mark?
Yeah, I would also just like to provide a quick update on the 2020 audit. Our on-site auditor has fully engaged. She started her engagement last week. We are making progress on that, and we'll continue to provide updates on 2020. I think we are on target to provide the 2020 audit, completed audit earlier than we have in prior years. We are meeting with the controller, with Chris Hagel and Lewis, and the auditors tomorrow, as well as members of my team, to just get an update there. And again, I'll make sure to continue providing those updates as we get.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
That's it for me, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Economic Development, Madam Volcano?
Thank you, Mayor. I only have two pieces of legislation on tonight. One is that the 185 property is an ordinance that we will be hopefully voting on to approve the purchase of the sale agreement. And the other one is, oh, I'm sorry, I have two resolutions. One is for the transfer of the liquor license up there on 13th Street. And the other one is for outdoor dining guidelines. And I don't know if there'll be any discussion on that, but we shall see. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Madam Volcano. Mr. O'Connell, Planning and Code.
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Dr. Ruggles.
Thank you. I just want to report that I have been meeting with both chiefs, most recently with the fire chief, and we're discussing progress in that department. We will be voting on a resolution to purchase 2 fire engines tonight, just saying the council basically is agreeing to go forward with this. I will tell you, I did go personally down to where those fire engines are, and we were down there, the fire chief, myself, the firefighter, and then 2 people from our garage went down and inspected both of those units, and they are amazing. For being 10 years old, they look brand new. They look like they just came off the manufacturer's floor. And I will let you know that both of they're almost identical, but they are Pierce's, which is kind of the high-end fire engines manufacturer that's available. So I honestly think that we're going to be getting a very, very, very good deal here, realizing that a new fire engine is probably going to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000 or $700,000. These probably would be a little bit more than that if we bought them new, and that would probably last 25 years. If you take a look at these, both of them are 10 years old. The expected life would be another 15 years. So essentially, we're getting fire equipment for a total of 30 years for a price less than we would pay for a brand new one. So I think it's an enormously good deal for the city. So I wanted to comment on that, and I can tell you, if we end up getting them and they come here, go down and take a look at them. You'll be amazed at how nice they are. They are just in pristine condition, they are very, very nice. But so anyway, I've been working with the fire chief on a few different things that we've kind of identified. And hopefully I'll have some more to report on those in the future. So, Louis, did you want to say any more about the fire engines or anything?
Sure. And so obviously the report that was presented to council, towards the end of that report, there's a replacement plan. And while, in a perfect world, we probably would have waited until next year, but the opportunity came up where these two engines were available. And perfect worlds are not always so perfect. We have two backup engines. The one backup engine is basically has become obsolete without some major investments in it. So it just doesn't make sense per se to continue to invest heavily in the engine because it's just so you know, I mean, the cost of the investment is almost the annual cost of it's a decent portion of the annual cost of the debt service. So it just doesn't make sense. I mean, the costs we're getting up there. And then the second backup is also on its last limb. There's a potential where we could trade these vehicles in, so to speak, or to another municipality. We are talking to a few that would be beneficial to the city. So there's more to come on that. But again, the timing of it, we didn't know that one of our trucks was going to be obsolete so quickly, and the other one's not too far behind. So as Roger said, during this process in the last 6 months, 2 trucks did become available. To that extent, what the city did was put out to bid a request, if you will, on a municipal bid for 2 trucks that met these types of specifications. So we shopped the market to see if there was 2 other equivalent trucks that were as good or better condition at this price point that met all our requirements. And that's how we got to these 2 trucks. There was one winning bidder. And so today's resolution just basically puts a stamp and says, gives the administration the ability to negotiate pending further approvals of council, budget approvals, and then the contract approval, which we will have to get to city council. But the resolution does help us notify the seller that the city is serious about purchasing these 2 vehicles. So that's what I would say.
I might add that the current backup fire engine that we have is over 25 years old. And so usually the lifespan on a truck is 25 years. I think it's at 29. And then we have our second backup pumpers, I think at 24 years old. So we have 2 trucks that probably within a year should have been retired. One should have been retired, one should be retired in another year. So just the fact that we'd have something that would allow us to replace those, that's a very good advantage for us. The other thing I just wanted to mention, I do have a resolution on tonight on certifying the list for promotions in the police department, and we'll be voting on that a little bit later on. But other than that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Dr. Ruggles. Public Works, Mr. Ettinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a report tonight. I do, however, have bill number 10, which deals with the contract with the public pool concessions, and bill number 11, which is a lease with the Delaware and Lehigh National Heritage Corridor. I also have Mr. Hopkins here tonight. If anybody has any questions on that legislation, I'll be introducing. Any questions? Thank you. That's it for me.
Mr. Milan, Administration Committee.
I have no report, Mayor.
Okay, report of solicitor, Mr. Shear.
Okay, we did meet or the city council met in exec session a half hour prior to this meeting, primarily discussed issues dealing with personnel, and in the end dealt with one issue involving real property. And that's the conclusion of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Solicitor. Mayor's report. First, I want to give you an update on radar in use by local police in the state of Pennsylvania. We came out of committee. It was voted on the second time. We go back to the House for a third vote. And Senator Scavello, Senate Bill 419 in the Senate. Looks like it has good support there too. So after 30 years, we may be able to control speed on our streets with the use of technology rather than old-fashioned time clocks. Also, the only thing it has in is a 90-day notice warning period signage whenever you enter the community that we do have speed by radar. And it has to be a clearly marked vehicle, police vehicle, not an undercover car. And also there was an amendment to give the state police moving radar, which they wanted. So the state police will get the newer technology, but at least we get something. And this time of the year, I'm getting a lot of complaints about kids on bikes, kids on skateboards in the streets, electric wheelchairs in the streets, and then of course speed. Also, give you an update. I wish I could give you an update on the American Recovery Plan money that's due to the city of Easton, but I was on a call today and last Friday with the U.S. Treasury. They said it will be sometime by mid-May, which the legislation gave them 60 days. So that would be 60 days. At our meeting with the board of directors today with the National League of Cities, they also basically said the same thing. It'd be mid-May. So we do have a number of things. The administration isn't waiting to get our amount. We assume what our amount should be. So I just want to let you know some of the ideas that are coming for city councils. Obviously, the first is to replenish our fund balances, which were used, which the money is allowed to be used for. Mortgage and rental assistance to our neighbors, to our residents. Homeless prevention and shelter expansion to aid our homeless. And I've been working with both of them with Councilman Volcano to make sure that we cover that group of people who may be affected. Our small business, she, as the executive, the chairman of the Economic Development Committee, she's been working with us on making sure we get grants to small businesses. And I'm also looking at, on the community development side, facade grants that we give people to fix up their homes, maybe with a no interest loan, not necessarily a grant, but it'd be a grant or loan, depending on what we get. We're also looking to start building some stick-built affordable housing houses for the public and for those that are qualified. And Mrs. Volcano has helped me identify some spots throughout the city for them. We're looking to do broadband assistance. One of the things the ARP is really looking at is getting the internet to everyone, not just select few. Water and sewer infrastructure and sanitary and storm source infrastructure, definitely high on the list for Congress for us to put people to work repairing our infrastructure. That brings us to the American Jobs Act bill, which is being put up there right now, $2 trillion. We're looking at park and recreation upgrades, and we're looking at fire apparatus and fire facilities. We got to prepare, for female firefighters, et cetera. And some of our fire facilities need major upgrades, whether we get a female or not. Central Station needs a new roof for about $150,000 alone. So we need to make those investments in our fire department, give them the facility and the equipment that they need to protect our residents. Also, I did extend the earned income tax to May 17th to follow the state and federal guidelines. You may have read that the police, thanks to County Executive Lamont McClure, he's providing sensitivity training and diversity training to police departments all over the county. We are not, you will see that we're not involved in that because we've already, as the chief will tell you, we've already done that training and we do it. It would be redundant. It's the same, Guillermo is the same person who did it for us. We paid for it, so we're not going to put our men through it again, but we will be participating as that program develops. We thank the county for that. Easton Iron and Metal, you probably have been reading about that. Some things that came out. The RFP is out. Basically, as the city was looking to invest in our future, we bought that to protect it, and now we're looking to see how it's developed. There's no doubt that we are working with programs like the Nurture Nature Center to do some environmental training, et cetera. So we have included we worked with them prior to the pandemic. We met with them a couple of times to talk about what they would use it for, what they would like to do. We're not going to get ourselves in another Da Vinci Science Center project where we would be funding it. The money has to come up either from them or from the private sector. And so we included that in our RFP so that maybe the developer would use the first floor even of a taller building for the Nurture Nature programs. It's a great facility that would get a lot of traction down there. But no matter what we do, we want to make sure that the project has something to do with environmental studies. I know the college is interested in doing studies down there in classes. I know the Carl Center Arts Trail is looking for artistic and environmental art down there. So we formed a consortium of the city, the college, Carl Center Arts Trail, and Nurture Nature. We've been meeting prior to the pandemic, and now this went out, and hopefully you'll see something going on. That's becoming a really important corridor. The city, as you know, we were awarded a $1.3 million ISRP grant to clean up that site environmentally. We also have a $1 million grant for pedestrian and bicycle improvements, curb, sidewalks, etc. We will continue from where the college left off. The college has done all their projects, all their properties, so we're looking forward to that. As far as our pools, you know, we're trying to open them up. But I will tell you, if you know anyone that's looking for a summer job, our lifeguards are in very big demand, and they are everywhere. Every municipality we talk to is having the same problem. Right now, we only have 8 of the 30 positions filled, and we're willing to pay for their senior life-saving courses, their certification, in addition to their salary. I know that you will be getting an invitation for mid-May. The iconic project, Commodore project down on Northampton Street is at the bridge is going to start. I know everybody's had the press seems to have a field day with that it's not going to happen, and some of the naysayers. But Garrett and John Kingsley, I want to thank John. They've worked really hard, and this project is now fully funded and they're ready to go. And they're going to be sending out invitations in City Council, and Mr. Hagan will be getting an invitation to the groundbreaking for the Commodore project down on 100 block of Northampton Street. Our outdoor dining is on the agenda. I know that City Council did have, when Streeteries came up a couple of years ago in 2018, I think it was, you talked about $11 per day per space. We've come up with $200 for the entire season. Our restaurants are still trying to recover from last year. Our retailers are trying to recover from last year. So we think this is, it'll help cover some of our expenses. But all the tents and things have to be out of the roadway by next Monday at noon. As we clean up the city, we will allow people to expand into the parking spaces, but not into the travel lanes. So we have a number of businesses who've been working on that. And John Kingsley, I saw him out there this morning talking to a couple of restaurant owners. So we're looking forward to that, which leads us to the outdoor market, winter market, the Easton Winter Market. We will be expanding. John and the committee have been meeting. We've been meeting, talking about potential layout, how it will look without being hopefully COVID affected, and how we can make it better, even better than the first year. So you'll be hearing more about that. But I just wanted to let you know that we are meeting. Those meetings are ongoing, and eventually we do know, we've already done the survey, that 95% of the vendors from last year want to come back, and we know that there's more vendors that want to come in. So we probably will be buying a few more huts and working on that. That's the end of my report, unless there's any questions. There's a lot going on in the city. Lewis, and we've been very busy. And Kingsley and Dave Hopkins, we've been, the fire chief, the police chief, all doing a great job. I'm very fortunate to have a good staff and wonderful city employees. Our employees are out there every day. We have fewer and fewer of them, and they're doing more and more. So we're very excited about the summer season. I will tell you that I've already met with and I know Jared is on the call. I saw his name. I don't know if he's still there in the chat. But the GDP will be doing the, he's not on right now, but GDP will be doing the Heritage Day, and it will occur, but it will not be down on the drive. It'll just be in Center Square, which Chief Scales and I have wanted for the last 4 or 5 years. They will have Center Square programs all the way up to 8 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock, those that want to walk down to the river can, those that want to stay in Center Square, you're going to be able to see the fireworks from a lot of areas. So we're looking forward to having some of our festivals coming back out. And that first one in July, we will probably have a cruise night, June, July, August, and September, a couple concerts, Easton Out Loud. A number of things are starting to come back post-COVID. So we're looking forward to those. the comedy festival and all those things will be coming back. No other questions? We'll move on to correspondence, Madam Clerk.
Okay, we had two letters that were from Mayor Panto. One was addressed to the senators showing support of, I think it's House Bill 8 and House Bill 1446. And another letter from Mayor Panto to Honorable Susan Wild showing support for St. Luke's Hospital Easton's campus, their request for funding for equipment for a new adolescent behavioral health unit. Sorry, I can't pronounce it. Behavioral health unit.
You got it.
Okay.
Yeah, the both of these letters were, the first one was, I know for some of you it may be controversial. I'm not against people owning guns, but better background checks are important. Illegal guns are still a threat to society, and this is for better background checks. Right now, you can still go buy a gun privately. Anybody can buy a gun from someone else. You can still go to a gun show and buy a gun without a background check. So this would enhance the background checks. And the one to Congressman Wild, who's been very supportive, and Senator Casey, have both been very supportive of our efforts to get our ARP redesignation and classification to be a metro city. We're looking to get the behavioral adolescent unit restarted at Easton campus and Easton Hospital. And I will tell you that St. Luke's has added a number of things at the Easton campus, including reopening their cath lab and operating rooms. They're actually having surgical procedures taking place there. And I think that was a good decision for, supporting them back when they needed CHS to get some money so that St. Luke's could buy the facility. And St. Luke's has done a great job at Easton Hospital, and this is really an important unit. When I was on the board there, we did the adult behavioral unit, but this one, it really helps young people with their mental illness and trying to get them mentally solvent before they become adults. So this is, in my mind, is really an important unit for us to have, and I'm glad St. Luke's is doing it. Moving on to unfinished business, Madam Clerk.
Okay, we have bill number 9 that was introduced by Mrs. Volcano, which would approve the purchase and sale agreement between the City of Easton and PD 185 South 3rd Street. That was introduced at the last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Ruggles. Comments, concerns, questions?
I'm just happy that we are moving forward on this and that we can start to see some movement down there and some dirt moving around.
Yeah, they were on the scene. They were on site last week doing the core drillings to see what the underground is like, and they also did the radar detection. So we're looking forward to that as well. Any other comments or concerns? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pianto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
No.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, that's a 6-1 vote. Moving on to new business, Madam Clerk.
Under new business, we have bill number 10 that's going to be introduced by Mr. Ettinger, and it's approving an agreement between the City of Easton and Sweetie Mama LLC. They're the company that does the concession stands at the pools.
To introduce.
We have bill number 11 that's being introduced.
Question.
No, it's a resolution.
Hold on, there's a question, Dr. Ruggles?
No, there's a typo in Article 3 underneath the title, the contractor shall. Go down to the 5th bullet point. It's just a typo, but I believe names there should be named. The S should be a D.
I don't know. I didn't do the contract.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying,
All right, we'll take care of that.
okay.
Okay, we have bill number 11 being introduced by Mr. Ettinger, approving a lease agreement between, pardon?
Okay.
Between the City of Easton and the Delaware and Lehigh National Heritage Corridor. and it has to do for the lock tender's house at Humor Park.
So introduced.
Thank you. Okay, we have a resolution being introduced by Dr. Ruggles, where we certified the list of eligible promotions for captains, as well as the list of the promotions for lieutenant, and also for the eligible list for inspectors, and also approving the recommended promotions within the police department.
So moved.
Second.
Second by O'Connell. Chief, would you like to say anything at this point?
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted me to discuss anything in reference to the process or the promotions themselves as to the officers or the candidates that were actually selected for promotion. I didn't know if council wanted to hear a little bit about each candidate prior to voting on it. That's completely up to you. If you want me to go into that, I certainly can.
I think that'd be good. That'd be helpful.
All right, basically, the process has been going on now for several months to fill some of the vacancies in the department. As you're well aware, Civil Service Department follows very strict civil service guidelines. So every one of these promotions followed a strict process where there was a written test and an oral interview. And then a list was created based on the scores from those two processes. Based on those scores and that list, that is the list of the top 3 that you have before you in your packet today. In this instance, which doesn't always happen, but in this instance, the top candidate or candidates as it pertains to the lieutenant test have been selected for promotion. So I'm just going to take a few minutes, if you're okay. I won't take too much of your time, just to talk about the 4 individuals who I'm recommending to you for promotion for your selection today. The first one I'll talk about is for Inspector of Crimes. That's like a sergeant pretty much of our detective division, our crime unit. And the selection or the recommendation that I'm making to you today is for Detective John Piperata to be recommended for promotion to the rank of inspector. Detective Piperata began his employment with the city of Easton in 2004. During his time on patrol, Detective Piperata had been a defensive tactics instructor, an accreditation assistant manager, and a member of the Easton Police Department Special Response Unit. In 2010, Detective Piperata was promoted to the detective division. While in the detective division, he has investigated hundreds of crimes. He has been tasked with the responsibility or lead responsibility in crime scene processing and evidence collection. He's worked as a liaison between the courts and the department, and he has taken on a lot of the administrative responsibilities that have been tasked to the department's criminal investigation division. In 2019, Detective Piperata was appointed as one of the department's evidence custodians. We only have 3 in the department. Only 3 people have access or ability to access the evidence in the department. I'm not one of them. It's actually 3 separate individuals for security purposes. And he was selected to be one of those individuals. He's dedicated over 16 years to law enforcement profession and to the city of Easton as a police officer. And for all of those reasons, I make that recommendation to you to promote Detective John Piperata to the rank of inspector. The second one is going to be for lieutenant. It's going to be Inspector Daniel Regan. I'm recommending to you today that he be promoted to the rank of lieutenant. Inspector Regan started with the department in the year of 2000. In 2003, Inspector Regan was assigned the Community Policing Division, and he was assigned the area of 6th to 9th Street, where he built really strong relationships with the community. In 2004, Inspector Regan was awarded the Easton Police Department Officer of the Year for the work in the division in that division with the community. In 2004, Inspector Regan was assigned to the Detective Division, where he continuously was recognized for his work as an investigator. One of the impressive cases of note was in the 1978 cold case homicide that he was able to bring to resolution. The department got a lot of really positive accolades for his work on that case. I'm sure you probably remember that, him doing that work and it being able to kind of go back and clear that cold case for the victim and their family and bring it to resolution. Based on the body of work in the Detective Division, in 2009, Inspector Regan received the Nathan Ogden Award presented by the Northampton County Chiefs of Police Association for excellence in policing. And he also received in 2009 the Crime Victim Council Allied Professional Award for his commitment to victim services. In 2011, Inspector Regan was promoted to the rank of sergeant. He returned to the patrol division. In 2012, he was assigned to the Detective Division again, this time taking a leadership role as the rank of Inspector of Crimes. In 2012, Inspector Regan received his master's degree in criminal justice from DeSales University. And he has dedicated over 20 years 20 years to the law enforcement profession and to the city. And for all of those reasons, I would recommend that to you that Inspector Regan be promoted to the rank of Lieutenant of Professional Standards, which is basically takes care of our accreditation, internal investigations, a lot of our IT. It really encompasses a lot within the department. Third promotion would be Sergeant Daniel Bonham. I'm recommending that he be promoted to the rank of Lieutenant. Sergeant Bonham began his employment with the city in 2006. In 2010, he was assigned to the Accident Investigation Unit. In 2011, he joined the Easton Police Department Special Response Unit, where he has been and currently is an assistant team leader, has been since 2015. In 2013, Sergeant Bonham was promoted to the rank of sergeant and supervised a night shift platoon for approximately 4 years. 2017, Sergeant Bonham was assigned to the Auxiliary Services Division, where he oversaw much of the training conducted within the department. He built strong relationships with the community. He was also responsible for managing the department's response and preparation for many special events that were conducted throughout the city. An estimate is approximately about 150 special events that were all managed in safe resolution. In 2017, Sergeant Bonham became a certified firearms instructor and a defensive tactics instructor. He has been a dedicated servant to the city of Easton and the department for over 15 years. And for that reason, I am recommended he be promoted to the rank of Lieutenant to oversee the department's Auxiliary Services Division. So he'll be bumping straight up from Sergeant to Lieutenant of that same division. And last but not least, Lieutenant Brian Herncane, I'm recommending that he be promoted to the rank of Captain. Lieutenant Herncane started with the department in 1998. In 2000, Lieutenant Herncane was assigned to the K-9 Division, where he remained for 11 years and he worked 2 dogs through that process. In 2004, he became a member of the Easton Police Department Special Response Unit as a sniper. In 2005, a full team member. In 2007, Lieutenant Herncane was promoted to the rank of sergeant, and he was assigned to the Patrol Division. In 2010, he was recognized as the Easton Police Officer of the Year for his work on patrol. In 2011, he was promoted to the rank of lieutenant and assigned the department's Office of Professional Standards. During that time, since 2011, it was 9 years that he's been in that position. He's oversaw 3 reaccreditations for the department, and he currently has us on the verge of being identified as a premier department based on our compliance to that program. He has also become an accreditation assessor for the Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation Coalition, which basically means that he now goes out and he assesses other departments and basically makes sure that they are compliant with the program. So he actually does that for the coalition now, not only making sure we're compliant, but actually doing it for other departments. He's investigated and overseen at least 50 internal investigations, ensuring that the department had accountability. He had written, reviewed, updated many of the department policies and procedures to ensure best practices and compliance with the law. He's written and managed several grants, resulting in hundreds of thousands of dollars of grant funding that was awarded to the city. The money that was utilized for such things as our TI system, which is our scenario-based training, and also our new report management system, which we're currently working on now, which we should be rolling out later this year. All of that funding came through grants that were procured by Lieutenant Herncane. And he also has been responsible for identifying, procuring, and managing much of the technological advances that have been implemented in the department. He is currently identified as the administrator on almost all of our technology and software systems within the department. In 2012, Lieutenant Herncane attended and graduated from Northwestern's School of Police Staff and Command, which was one of the premier law enforcement leadership schools in the country. So based on all of that and 20 years that he has dedicated to the law enforcement profession in the city as a police officer, I recommend that he be promoted to the rank of captain to oversee the department's Administrative Services Division. So those are the 4 candidates that I recommend to you today to be promoted. I think they offer strong leadership for the department to move the department forward. I know there's still some more that we have to do as far as filling some of the voids that they'll be left in their wake, but it is definitely a strong step, I think, with these 4 candidates. I think all 4 are definitely very worthy. We had a tremendous amount of really good candidates who took our test, went through the process. Unfortunately, you can only select 1 person for each position, which is always a challenge, but I'm really happy with these 4 individuals. I think they'll do a great job for the department.
Any comments? Dr. Ruggles, do you want to introduce the resolution?
I did.
He did, and Mr. O'Connell seconded it.
Okay, any other comments? Roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
No.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto.
Aye.
Sal? Sal?
Dr. Ruggles.
Yeah, I was just wondering, just with the chief here too. I know we typically have a swearing in of these individuals. I'd like to kind of make it somewhat special. You
Look,
know?
I was going to mention that after the vote.
Okay.
The plan is, why don't we do the vote first, and then I'll talk about what I was thinking about.
That's why I was doing that after the vote. No, we just finished. We just finished the vote, chief, so.
We just
Oh.
finished the vote.
Everything's good? Okay.
That's why I
So,
waited myself. after the vote.
yeah, so what the plan would be is, this promotion, with your approval now goes into effect, actually April 19th, Monday. So those individuals will actually be promoted on Monday. On Monday, we will come over to City Hall and have the mayor swear in all these individuals, along with the 2 new hires that we have here that were hired on the 31st. We'll get everybody sworn in. And then we would, as soon as we go back to in-person meetings, we would basically bring this entire group over before you, as well as our last 2 officers as well. So families and friends and everybody can come and be a part of that type of ceremony there. I'm sure that the officers who are being promoted would like to thank all of you for their support, for all of you who voted for them today for the support. So I'm sure they'd like to do that. And have an opportunity with their families, to kind of celebrate, in the promotion. So that was kind of my plan. Rather than do something here on a Zoom call, I figured as soon as we get back to in-person meetings, we would have to just kind of catch up and have that opportunity to do that then.
My thought process is that I said we would go back to in-person meetings in June. That may be moved up because we were offered, as well as all the council members were offered vaccines last week from St. Luke's. So we're seeing that most of our municipal employees are already vaccinated, their spouses, and we'll look to council. But I would like to definitely, if nothing else, council will meet in public, and we'll limit or continue the CDC guidelines for public meetings. But
Yep. Well, as soon as one gets scheduled, I'll get on that agenda with these individuals, and I'll coordinate that with you, Dr. Ruggles, as always, and we'll set something up and be able to do that there.
Sounds great.
We're good.
Chief, could you have Betty give me the information of the new hires so I can get the oath ready?
Absolutely. Yeah, she's actually, we'll have to do that probably Monday. I'll have her get that to you.
That's fine.
She's actually off. I can actually probably send it to you tomorrow, though. I'll get that to you.
That's fine.
All right, we'll continue with new business, to transfer liquor license.
Yep, we have the resolution that's being introduced by Mrs. Volcano to approve a transfer of a liquor license. And I think we wanted to amend that, I believe.
I would like to amend it to say, and I'll give this to you tomorrow, Rita, but be it further resolved that should the owner/licensee extend the hours of operations beyond 8 p.m., that the council of the city of Easton be notified for additional approval.
Excuse me, Mayor. I would suggest that the approval, because I don't think you can have the Liquor Control Board requiring them to go back. That's language that certainly our land use can do. But what I was thinking as far as an amendment goes is that that we add a whereas clause next to the last language would read, whereas applicant has indicated that it intends not to sell liquor after 8 p.m. and is prepared to stipulate the same when it seeks land use approval. So that would take care of us as far as they're having to go, and then add for the resolution, at the end of the resolution, the other requirements of the Pennsylvania Liquor, and there's a typo on what I'm looking at, Liquor Control Board, it should say, and then add in there, and with the stipulation that no sales of liquor will be conducted after 8 p.m.
Okay, could you get them to read it tomorrow?
Joel, can
Sure.
you email me that tomorrow and I'll fix it?
I'll mail you that tonight.
Thank you so much.
So don't we move the original first and then amend it?
No, we amend it first.
Well, you have to allow for the amendment first, and
So
Yeah,
the
I
mayor
guess-
made a motion to amend it.
I'm seconding it. The amendment.
Okay, the
the-
amendment's been moved and seconded. Any conversation or questions or concerns?
I still think we don't have the authority to do this. I mean, the liquor control law has preemption over us. The guy wants to open up a business. I'm not sure how we can legally restrict somebody from selling liquor based on the provisions in the liquor control law.
Well, then let's make a recommendation to the zoning hearing board because they do it every hearing. I hear them do it.
But Mayor, I don't understand how we can restrict a business from operating legally though. This is my concern.
He's
Well,
asking for a special exception. One of the conditions of the special exception be granted, he doesn't sell after 8 o'clock.
But Mayor, but it's not like he's converting to business though. It's a permitted use in the corridor.
The liquor control board process allows the municipalities to give their yay or nay on a transfer, an additional liquor license within the city limits. And therefore, this liquor control board is looking for the input of the city of Easton. So the resolution that you propose with the amendment is simply advising the liquor control board that the applicant on his own has volunteered to limit his hours for sale. And you're relying on that recommendation in going ahead and saying, yes, let's bring this in. If the liquor control board doesn't want to restrict it and it's within its province, it can do so. If it feels that our stipulation is improper, it can go ahead and it can issue the license with no restrictions at all. The zoning is where the city would get that protection if you want the applicant to have to go back because his permit, his business permit is going to be limited to as far as sale of alcohol to 8 o'clock.
And did not the governor of Pennsylvania limit liquor sales to 11 p.m.? And did we not limit them in our outdoor dining, Mr. Kingsley? What was it, 10 or 11? I forget what it was, but we limited then. You don't want to, if you don't want to be permitted, then you don't have the permit. But we did put, and I don't know what it is in this, in without the pandemic, but we did a lot of things during the pandemic.
I note that the applicant has no objection to this. I mean,
well, he has his hand raised right now again.
Okay.
So let's bring him into the room and we can see what Mr. Patel has to say.
Yeah,
So-
thank you.
Go ahead, Raj.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I simply wanted to say that the 8 p.m. Closing time was a condition of the pandemic. We did that for the safety of our customers and for our employees. Normally we would close at 9 p.m. I think we're parsing hairs when 8 or 9, but I just wanted to voice that we have no intention of going till midnight or anywhere close to 2 p.m. as the liquor board allows us to. But I did want to voice that prior to the pandemic, we were open till 9 p.m. and that we would like to reserve the right, if that's okay with you, to do that.
I mean, I don't care about 10. I don't care about 10 o'clock. I mean, I really don't care. I mean, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, I just don't want it to be 2 a.m.
Of course not. And we have no intention. That just isn't part of the way that we're doing business. We're a community mini mart. We have no intention of running a bar or anything like that at that place. So.
Okay, so given that information, I would move that we do a resolution to the zoning hearing board asking them to limit the hours of operation to no later than 11 p.m. in the granting of the special exception.
What is it? 8? Is it 9? Is it 10 or 11 now? Like we have 4 different times.
I'm giving them till 11.
Okay.
So we're re-amending it?
No, we're not. We're going to do a resolution that basically recommend, or we could do that in here. Be it further resolved that the city council of the city of Easton does hereby recommend that in the process of land use development that the zoning hearing board puts a restriction on hours of operation. Mr. Shearer?
If I may, you already have moved and seconded the resolution with the amendments that refer to 8 p.m. If you wanted to pull that back or have a favorable, a friendly amendment to make it 11 o'clock, you can make it 11 o'clock. I don't know. I don't know that you need much more than that.
We can amend the amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
I
can,
think
you
I'll offer
can,
a friendly amendment to 11 o'clock since I was the mover of the amendment.
I'll second that.
Oh, wait a minute, I gotta get this straight here, guys.
I'll send you the language too.
Okay, but I still need to the vote. So we made an amendment to initially change it to add your verbiage, Mr. Shear, correct? And then the mayor and Sandy, we never voted on that first amendment, though.
Right.
Correct.
We're making a friendly amendment to the amendment. Based on Mr. Patel's comments.
And Joel, you're gonna give me the verbiage tomorrow?
Yep, once council tells me what time it is, but I'll do that.
All right, well then the
It's
mayor
about
made,
7:30, Joel.
Yeah,
all right, the mayor made a second motion to amend and now amend the amendment, and now I need someone to second that.
Sandra did.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Comments. Mr. Patel would like to address the group again. We'll bring him in. He's still in the room. Raj?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, and council members, I believe I've said my piece. Yeah, I would be very happy with an 11 PM amendment. I think that completely follows our business model and everything that we intend to do. with
Okay,
that.
thank you, Mr. Patel. Okay, roll call.
All right, hang on one second, I gotta find where I am now. Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano.
aye.
Next item is we have a resolution being introduced by Mrs.
Wait a
Volcano.
minute, point of order.
Go, Dr.
We
Ruggles.
we were voting on the amendment just then.
Don't we have
Yeah.
to vote on the original?
We have to vote on the resolution.
Yeah, we
We
have
made
to.
we have to vote on the whole thing now.
All right, bear with me. Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
And now we can move on to outdoor dining.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mrs. Volcano, kind of approving the outdoor dining stipulations for the post-COVID-19 business recovery program.
So moved.
Second.
I just want to say, I believe Director Kingsley is on this call. And if
Yes.
anyone has any questions or
Well,
wants
I'd like to make a
number was
follow-up.
derived, he's here to speak before that. Or
I'd like to make a formal amendment to the fee schedule.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'd like to charge $0, actually. I think these businesses have been decimated by the pandemic. And I think as good stewards for the community, I think we should offer no fee for this. And, we're getting some substantial money from the county, from the state, the federal government. And I think we can recoup some of our costs with that stimulus money. It shouldn't be that much, but I think to really help spur the downtown economy, I think there should be no fee for this program.
I would agree with Mr. Milan.
Really? Okay.
Are you saying really because you don't agree with it, or?
Well, I was kind of looking at, I was questioning the amount of revenue that we're going to lose with the 2 parking spaces and how many actually are coming forward that are requesting it, and hoping that it would not affect our budget tremendously ourselves.
Well, we're getting a $5 million stimulus package from the federal government and whatever allocation we get from the county. So I think we can spare a few $1,000s to help these restaurants recuperate some of their lost revenue from the past 13 months.
And I would echo that. We do have an opportunity to recover some of our COVID costs, but those businesses don't.
So I am making a formal amendment to the resolution that's in front of us to $0.
I'd like to second that.
Is that motion of limiting it to 2 spaces or?
I mean, I wasn't considering more than 2 spaces.
Okay, well, right now, it's $200 per space.
Right.
So you're saying free up to 2 spaces.
Yeah, that was the original resolution, correct?
Yeah, I just want to make sure. I'm just.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how the owners consulted on this resolution.
I believe
Yes,
so.
actually, John, why don't you address the owners?
I'm sorry?
I'm asking John Kingsley. He's been dealing with. I mean, I was on the conference call with them last week, and they were at that time. We were at $160 per space per month. we did limit it down to 200 for the entire year. And John, were you getting any pushback on that?
Not for the entire year, Mayor, the way I understand it. It's until.
Well, I'm referring to the amount of spaces. Did they give any pushback on the amount of spaces?
So, Peter, to answer your question, there are some that would like to go to 3 spaces, which is why within the guidelines, we added a provision that kind of on a case by special request, we would consider 3 spaces. The one issue, and really we were trying to make this program equitable across the board, is that some locations won't have access to 3 spaces. So we were trying to be careful in terms of how we made that allocation.
Well, I guess, John, what would be the criteria for allowing somebody to have 3 spaces then?
Well, there were several that were being discussed. I don't know that there's a final resolution to that.
Okay.
I think it's perfectly appropriate that you would discuss it. There was some thought that maybe you would get sign off by an adjacent property owner if that space happened to front on their location. For instance, Chip Promotion had suggested he might get a guy who owns the neighboring property to provide a support letter of support saying that he would offer the space fronting his property to support the restaurant.
Problem there is a guy may give them permission, but it really reduces the sight distance coming out of Sickring Street. The site, we do say we can't block the sight lines. I think that would be in the sight triangle. But the problem we're having is that we have retailers who also were impacted by the pandemic, and they don't want the loss of parking spaces, and they don't want people to extend their tables and chairs in front of their space. So that's why we said 2 with a maximum of 3 in certain situations. And there may be situations where we can offer 3, but what the problem is now with it being free, everybody's going to want as many as they can get. That's why I say
That's what I'm saying.
I think we should limit it to 2.
I'll revise my amendment to say up to 2 for a maximum of 3, considered on a case by case basis.
Okay.
So, Rita, do you have my amendment?
Not yet.
Do you need me to repeat it for you?
No.
Okay.
Actually, just an FYI, that stuff was not specifically in the resolution. That was just in the plan anyway. So we're changing.
Is the plan correct?
We're changing the plan itself then.
Yep.
Changing the plan. That's right.
Yep.
If it passes. So right now we have Peter that made a motion to amend it. Mr. O'Connell
Thought it was Mr. Hennigan.
seconded it. I just now if everything is
O'Connell.
Rita, but I want to make sure that it's up to 2 to a maximum of 3.
correct, but is the fee up to 2, maximum of 3, considered on a case by case basis?
Yep.
John, you got that because you have the program document, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then the fees.
No
and you want to make it zero fee. So
That is
there's two
correct.
amendments within that program.
That is correct.
Okay, so we have Peter, Mr. Milan moving it, Mr. O'Connell seconding it. And those are the two amendments, making it a zero fee and specifying up to two spaces with a maximum of 3 being considered on a case-by-case basis.
Correct.
That's correct.
Should I take a vote now?
Please.
Mr. Ettinger, go ahead.
Oh,
Mr. Ettinger,
Let me make sure, are there any other comments about any other parts of the guidelines? And now you may take the roll call.
Mr. Ettinger,
I think that what we're looking at is just waiving the fee, more or less, but we still maintain control over whether they're really entitled to having 2 or 3 spaces.
Well, what we're trying to prohibit here is a Mardi Gras atmosphere, which we already had 2 weeks ago. And we have one group that's selling liquor and allowing people to leave. It's totally against the LCB and LCE. It's against our open container law. So what we're trying to do is limit the number of people that are actually involved in it. But John has visited as many people as he can, and he will continue to visit them. But the guidelines are there not to turn it into a festival every weekend, because some of them were doing that. And I have people who live on Sitgrave Street complaining about graffiti, late night parties. I mean, we're trying to help the restaurants, and these are for the restaurants. These aren't for the retailers. This is that comes in the winter market. So we're trying to make sure that we don't turn downtown into a Mardi Gras this year, but yet we want to help the restaurants. What this is for eating establishments to allow people to eat outside, not drink. They have to drink at their table, and that's in the guidelines. Dr. Ruggles.
Did we charge for the winter market sheds?
We will be this year.
I mean, did we in last year?
No, nothing was charged to them last year. We're looking at a nominal fee this year to help pay for defray the costs. You'll get that probably in another 2 to 3 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks.
I mean, my concern is not the fact that, not charging them, but I would want to make it clear that this is not something that next year and the following year that we would be able to do. And I think that, if who knows what the future is going to hold, but, let's say in May or June, they go back to 100%. And, then they have both indoor dining, 100%, outdoor, now expanded outdoor dining. It just doesn't seem fair to the other retailers downtown that, okay, we're giving you more of an advantage here. I mean, the other retailers have the same.
That's exactly why we're trying to limit it. The retailers are complaining. I mean, I've visited several of them who were complaining that, tents are set up in front of their businesses and tables and chairs. And so the effort was to help the restaurants who have people eating and drinking, but mostly eating. We're not looking to turn this into a Mardi Gras atmosphere for people just walking around or under a tent drinking. There will be no tents. I mean, unless they can fit them within they might buy 10 by 10 pop-ups, but they're not going to be tents like you saw last year. Those tents have to be down by noon Monday.
This question is for Mr. Kingsley. Mr. Kingsley, did you have any pushback when the $200 amount came about?
The answer, Councilman Brown, is yeah. I mean, we did have a few come back and say, especially those that were not occupying metered spaces, were coming back and saying there really isn't a lost, revenue component to this in those areas. And we had some in the West Ward suggest that they felt that the fees should be as low as possible and perhaps consider zero. So there was a little bit. I'm not going to suggest that it was significant. There were only 2 restaurants total that had any real issues with the fee.
Out of how many restaurants would that be? You said 2 out of,
Oh, out of all that I've talked to, I mean, you're probably talking, somewhere between a dozen and 20. So really not a huge, outpouring. I mean, I'll say it was more significant when we were talking about a higher fee. At one point, it was $160 a month per space was what we were
And
suggesting.
you're going now per season, correct? This is based on this season, this summer season.
This is for this year only from May 1st through October 31st.
Okay, season. Okay.
I need to take a vote on the amendment if everybody
Yes,
is ready.
we're ready to call a vote.
Okay, Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Brown. This is on the amendment.
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
and Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, at this point in the meeting where you have public comment on any matter.
That's an amendment, Sal. You need to,
Now I got to
I have,
vote.
I have a
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry, that was
on
the
the-
amendment. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I have a question on
Roll
the.
call go ahead, Dr. Ruggles.
Just a real quick question on the resolution. You were saying that there would be none on Northampton Street in the 300 block?
Nothing in the travel lanes.
Just the north side of the 300 block.
The north side of the street on the 300 block, I think was in there, there would be no outdoor dining in that block because of the construction, I believe.
Well, once the construction of the garage starts, that becomes a loading, unloading zone till 9 a.m.
Okay,
That doesn't mean they can't put their tables in the space outside after 9 a.m., but they'd have to take them back out every day.
but, I mean, you'd have to have some type of barrier out there to protect the tables.
No, we're gonna, that's where we talk about working with the individuals individually. The public market has all the room in the back, plus the back half of Pine Street. The Oak has the front part of Pine Street plus the front of their property. If they want to put a couple more tables out in the parking spaces, certainly be able to do that, but they're gonna have to remove them before 5 a.m. because we did approve a loading unload zone there for the parking, for the public market from 5 to 9. They're the only two that are affected by that loading zone.
Okay.
Mayor, now I have to take a vote on the amended resolution that it's going to be the final. And
Right.
Mrs. Volcano moved it and Mr. Brown seconded it. So I have to do the regular vote.
Is there any other comments before we vote? Roll call.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
And Mr. Kingsley, you're going to make those changes and then get that to me tomorrow?
Certainly will do that.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point in our meeting, we do have public comment on any.
No.
Oh, we have the fire trucks?
There's
Oh,
one
I'm
more
sorry.
resolution.
I'm sorry, I forgot to put it down. Thank you, Mrs. Volcano. Yes, the fire truck.
We have a resolution being introduced by Dr. Ruggles, which your council authorizes the administration to move forward with the purchase of 2 used 2010 Pierce fire pumper trucks
So
from
moved.
Man Fire Apparatus.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Brown. Comments? Roll call.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
I'm sorry,
Aye.
all right, and Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Now we're at public comment. Thank you for reminding me about that, Mrs. Volcano. Public comment on any matters that deal with the city of Easton, you can raise your hand with the button at the bottom of the screen. We have 6 people that are still on. That was 25. I see no hands being raised. Any matters, any city council members have anything else to bring before council? I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Moved by Ruggles,
Second.
seconded by O'Connell.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Pianto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a great evening. Stay safe.
Dr.
You
Ruggles.
too. Good night, everybody.
Aye.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Good night. Dave Hopkins.